What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Cultivation 3D Studio. In this video, I'm showing you guys how I made the awesome Red Ranger helmet. Now, in this video, there are some awesome techniques in here that I would love to show you guys that could help you out with your future projects. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. Now, with every project comes its failures. So here is my failure. You know, you got to show your failures in order to grow. So it's not that big of a deal, but this thing was about, I want to say, 80% complete, and for some reason there was a layer shift. So Elegoo, count your days. I'm telling you, I don't know how many failed prints I've had so far with this printer. So I most likely am going to upgrade to a new printer, but after leveling it 17,000 times, we got a good printout. So I mean, I can't complain other than the fact that I keep getting failures my first time, but they came out nice enough. I don't know why there's some weird seam on here, but we'll figure that out later. But this is how it came out. Let's get right into it. First things first, we're sanding it down with 80 grit. This is the back plate, and then I went ahead and did the front plate as well. So the back and front takes about, I want to say, 20 to 25 minutes to knock both of these out. And then we're also going to go back and do technique from the previous video where I showed you guys how to do the resin smoothing. Bunch of layers, you build it up, sand it down. You don't need to do the first layer of the 80 grit or the 120. You're basically just going to break down the final layer with the 220. Those were the eyepieces, and then we're going to go ahead and do the mouthpiece here. Make sure you get all into the nooks and crannies of the mouthpiece. And once you sanded your hand down completely numb, you should have something very close to this, or if not better than this. Now, once you guys have gone through the process of sanding all the bits and pieces, the front, the back, the little pieces, and everything else in between, we're going to go ahead and apply a filler primer coat. So again, I use the ever so trusty filler primer from Duplicolor. I use the gray one for some reason. The red one just gets a little messy for me, but to each their own. So if you want to use the red one, by all means, go ahead. Now, once you've completed spraying down the helmet with the filler primer, all the bits and pieces, the mouthpiece, the front, the back, and even the little pieces like the eyes, we're going to go ahead and jump into a wet sand. So we're going to wet sand this with 1200 to 1500 grit. For these smaller pieces, I did that just because they're already pretty smooth. I am just getting some of the rough edges out that were left over from the filler primer. Now, again, we're doing the front, the back, the mouthpieces, the little pieces, this visor piece, which is also pretty cool how the print file came with the visor kind of separate from everything. I kind of wish that was the same way for the Green Ranger, but you know, whatever. Now, once everything's done, we're going to go ahead and do the high gloss black coat on the mouthpiece and the eyes for an undercoat. And then once we get that undercoat completed, we're going to go ahead and spray visor of the helmet with a flat white primer just to get it started. We'll get that completed, and then we're going to also do the rest of the helmet with a flat white primer, again, just to get a good base coat. Now, before we spray the helmet, we're going to do the rivets first so we can also prime the rivets as well so they're the same color. Now, if you guys saw my previous video on how I did the rivets for the helmets, I did it on a piece of plastic, but this is me showing you how I do it on the actual helmets. Again, it's the same process, but just showing you how it's done on the actual helmet. So I popped one of the rivets in, drilled the second hole just to make sure everything was aligned properly, and then popped the second rivet in, and you pretty much got your rivets in place. So I had already done the first rivet on the other side. I just wanted to show you guys how it looks with both of them done before we do the white primer. Now, once we finish the white primer on the front of the helmet, we're going to go ahead and do the back of the helmet as well. And essentially, we're going to be done priming, sanding, and we're going to get ready for our complete first coat. Now, with the first coat, I did use a different technique. But before I show you guys how I do that, I am going to show you guys how I complete the mouth part and paint that. So we're going to paint that with Nico Pro's metallic silver paint. Now, I airbrushed this just like how I did the Black Ranger in the previous video. So I did a couple of coats on here. It can take a little bit of time as airbrushing. You have to do a lot of thin coats. So if you're up for it, do a lot of thin coats. If you're not, go ahead and just use the aluminum metallic spray paint from Rust-Oleum. Works just the same. I just kind of like this method a little better. Are going to do this method. There are some things you need to learn. So there is a little bit of tweaking that goes along with the gun, but once you get everything packed down, it should look great. Now we're going to go ahead and get our white primer on the visor part, and we're also going to show you how to do the visor. So if you guys didn't check out my previous video as well on how I did the visors, this is kind of a short rundown how you do it. So I have an outline of the visor already printed out. You trace that onto a welding mask, and it should come out something like this once you have everything cut out, and it should fit perfectly in there. Now for this next technique, I used a pretty cool method. I used a liquid mask from Vallejo. Now, for the most part, I have nothing against using masking tape. I just don't want to go through the process of using an X-Acto knife on a very intricate part of the mask. For some reason, I tend to dig a little too deep and end up scarring parts of the mask that kind of show at the end. But once everything has dried, you're going to want to paint over everything with either the Rust-Oleum metallic silver, or how I'm doing, the silver metallic from NicoPro. I went ahead and did every single tooth, about 2 to 3 coats on here. And the best part comes when you're able to peel this off. It's basically like, I don't know if you guys ever played with the glue before when you were a kid. You can just peel this stuff off and it comes out super crispy. And it should look something like this. Once that's done, we're ready to paint. With this new technique, I am learning how to use an air gun. So I mixed a couple of paints together and I got the right paint that I wanted. It's kind of like the Rust-Oleum apple red. So that's the closest thing that I could get to, honestly. And with the air gun, you are going to need to learn some techniques, but honestly, everything comes out super smooth. For some reason with the spray gun, I have a little bit of issues when it comes to actually getting a good coat on there. Either it comes out too much or it spits and I have to kind of start over. But with the air gun, everything is more of a mist, and you are going to need to do at least 3 or 4 layers on here, but honestly, it's worth it to get a completely clean and smooth paint job. Just remember to take your time and make sure you wait at least 30 minutes before doing the next coat. Now, once everything is done, it should look something like this, and we're so close to the end, guys. You're gonna wanna wait for this to dry at least 24 hours so we can do our clear coats properly so there's no mess ups. Now, once we get our clear coat on there, you're gonna wanna do at least 2 to 3 coats, waiting at least 2 to 3 hours between each coat, because the Duplicolor clear coat does take a little bit of time to dry. So we just want to make sure there's no mess up. So you're gonna want to do at least 2 or 3 coats on each and every single one of these pieces. So the mouthpiece, the visor, and the smaller pieces as well, like the eyes. Once those have dried and cured, we're going to get into the assembly, which is the fun part. So here I'm assembling the visor. I'm just using some regular standard super glue. Now, it does take a little bit of technique. So I do a little bit slower. I apply super glue to a part of it, make sure that's set, and we're good to go. So we can continue on with the rest of the mask. Once that's set, you're able to work the visor around the casing of the visor, so that way we can have a nice smooth finish. Please make sure to wear gloves during this process, as super glue is also super glue. So we want to make sure we're not getting super glue on our fingertips and also touching the mask as well. You are going to be holding the mask in a weird position for about a minute or so. So just make sure you have gloves on for the most part. Now, once that's complete, you have your visor nice and set. Now for this next part, I'm showing you guys how I do the magnets. I honestly wish I had a video like this when I first started doing my magnets, because there's a few times where I had to pull magnets out. So here I'm just putting the magnets in first and then marking them where I'm going to super glue. And it's honestly the most simple process, but for some reason I just couldn't figure it out. So I'm just making a video on how I did that part. So you're gonna want to super glue the green part into the mask, and you're gonna want to also use something that's not your finger, because you don't want super glue on your finger. So you're gonna press that in with like a pen or paintbrush, honestly, whatever works. And just make sure when you're using the super glue that you're not touching anything else, because especially if you're wearing gloves, you're not going to feel the super glue on you. So if you're touching everything else, you're going to get super glue on everything else. But once you have everything super glued and the magnets on, it should look something like this. Honestly, I can't complain. Everything looks great. We're gonna go ahead and attach the visor to this part here. Again, using the same method, just make sure that you do as I say and not as I do. For some reason, my glove ripped off and I didn't want to put a new one on, so I went ahead and just did this barehanded. Now, this part is probably safer than actually doing the visor, just because all I had to do was sit it in there and hold it for about 30 seconds. Now, the position I'm holding this is wild. I think it's hilarious the way I'm holding his mouth open like this, but you're pretty much done. I, for some reason, didn't record the mouthpiece and the eyes getting glued in, but it's the same process. Just hold it in there for a couple of seconds and you're good to go. But I do appreciate you guys staying this long for the video. I will be working on another Ranger next. I'm just not too sure what it's going to be. So I have the blue Ranger, the pink Ranger, and the white Ranger next. So let's see what happens.